Good morning. It is currently 6:22 a.m. on Friday, June 12th, 2015. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I was thinking last night about perspective and how it's easy to lose it. Oh, hang on, my microphone is like... I rearranged my chair a little bit, and now I'm like paranoid that like everything's out of balance. What was I talking about? Perspective, right? Okay. Basically, there's been a couple of cases semi-recently where I was gonna do something more social and then didn't. Chose not to do something by myself. And on both of those occasions, I felt a little bit like a failure. And this is for reasons that I've talked about on these videos before, just this idea that frequently I'll want to do something social, but then I get a little bit of hindbrain anxiety about it in the hours leading up to it, and then I can tend to bail on it. Or sometimes if I can push past that, I go and I have a good time and it's all fine, and I'm saying, whew, glad I pushed past that. But sometimes I don't push past it. But it's all a matter of perspective too, because I have to remember that some things like the improv classes are still a semi-recent addition to my life, all things considered. Hasn't even been a year yet. And so I can have that feeling of like, oh, well, I kind of said that I was going to play video games with these guys, but then I kind of wanted to just play video games by myself. Is that a failure? Well, I feel like, oh, am I getting depressed? Because there was also that show that I was going to see on Saturday, and I didn't go to that either. But then I'm also remembering, oh, wait, I went to an improv class and then out for beers on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I had a podcast recording about a show that I like with old friends. Sunday, I had a rehearsal for an independent improv thing. And so it's just that I didn't go out on Saturday night and I didn't do a specific thing on Thursday night. Like, I need to put into perspective that this is not like I'm some sort of a recluse. I have this weird, I don't know, I think this is maybe pretty common too, but it's an element of, things like imposter syndrome, this idea that, like, for example, I do a lot of different creative projects, but there's a feeling like any night that I don't work on it and just, read a book or play video games or watch TV or something like that, I feel like I'm being lazy. But I think, I have to have it occasionally put it back into perspective for me that I'm already doing a lot of stuff. I just don't have to do stuff all the time. I don't know. I think it is true, though, that I sometimes have a bad ability to prioritize what's the best thing to work on. So for example, if I was going to work on something creative right now, what should it be? Well, I could work on the rough draft of any number of a bunch of incomplete projects. I could continue writing the rough draft of another thing that's almost finished. I could continue rewriting this other thing. I could work on putting together this thing for that podcast or this thing for that podcast. So there's a lot of these different things that I could do, and all of those are working on creative projects. But which of them are likely to get something to be finished at some point? And which of those have a deadline associated with them? And that can apply to things, ordinary life things too, like, paying bills, doing housework, doing laundry, not staying up too late so that you can get to work at a reasonable time in the morning. It's hard to prioritize these things, but I think it's also perhaps true that everybody struggles with this stuff, and I don't need to beat myself up for not, being some icon of perfection every single moment of every single day. Or ever, really. I mean, I feel like I have a lot of strengths, but I don't think that there is a single point in my life where I would have called myself an icon of perfection. Anyway, though, all about perspective, and certainly something I need to remind myself of every so often, which is if you're starting to beat yourself up about anything, take a step back and ask, okay, how important is this really? Yeah. So I remember you can find all the stuff that I do over at christianaellis.com, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.